Welcome to WFPC Podcasting, your local source for the heart and history of Pike County, Indiana. And now, here's your host, Randy Harris.
Welcome to WFPC Podcasting. This is a weekly look at news, information, and the people in and around Pike County. This week's guest is the Pike County Coroner, Nick Henson. Nick is in his first year as coroner, but he's no stranger to the position. Nick, welcome.
Thank you, Randy.
So, Nick, this is your first year elected as coroner. However, you've been involved in this. Your aunt was coroner, Gretchen. Your grandpa Bob was coroner.
Yes.
And from the time you were a baby, you were his shadow. You were his sidekick. I'd come pulling up on Walnut Street, and you were 2, maybe 3 years old, and you'd just be standing there waving with Bob.
Yeah.
I think you called him Bobby at the time.
Yeah.
And so you've always been involved. You've always been around it. Now it's you. You're the coroner. Is it everything you thought it would be?
And more. Yeah.
Tell us about it. Tell us what goes on in the coroner's office.
Well, what happens is for people, and most people don't know, they don't have any idea until sadly
You're involved.
have to deal with it. Yes. And what happens is, EMS, first responders, law enforcement are called to a scene. And when they get to the scene of an unattended death, and that unattended, most people don't, realize what all that entails. Unattended death is anything from an individual who, there's not hospice or not in a nursing home, not under direct medical supervision, and they pass away unexpectedly. And then EMS on scene we're doing a dispatch, call the coroner, and that's when they contact me or one of my deputies. And we arrive on scene, and the process is, first thing you do is speak to the officer in charge, whatever officer is in charge of the scene, because legally an officer has to be present for every coroner's scene. And I get a rundown of, what we're looking at, who the individual is, basic background information, things like that. Do a walk through the scene, and then do an examination of the body, take photographs if necessary, and then catalog, and we have to procure the any kind of prescription drugs, anything of that nature, especially any kind of narcotics or things like that. And like I said, do an examination of the body, and then make our deliberation whether an autopsy is required. And a lot of that can be done by calling the doctor, whoever the physician is for the individual. And after contacting the doctor, and there are times where I have to bring the individual back to the coroner's office, put them in the cooler sometimes, because you can't always get a hold of a doctor in the middle of the night. But a lot of them will answer. And like I said, make deliberation on whether to perform an autopsy or not.
How do you find out who the doctor is?
Medications. A lot of times. If the family doesn't know, any kind of prescription drugs will have a physician's name on it, whoever prescribed the drugs. And a lot of times, the majority of the time, it's a local doctor, just a attending physician. And sometimes you have specialists, but specialists aren't going to sign a death certificate. But
you've got a couple of different deputies. If you're out of town, if you and the family are out of town, you've got help, you've got backup, but you're on call 24/7.
Yes.
And you're usually there.
Yeah.
And you never know when it's going to happen.
No.
And it could be Stendhal, it could be Union, it could be Burr Oak. You're all over the place.
Yeah.
You're wherever you need to be.
Yeah.
What are some challenges that you just didn't see coming as much? So as much as you've been around it, there's still new things that come up when you're involved in the bureaucracy of government.
Yes.
What are some of those things, other things that we just don't understand besides going to the scene, determining if the person is passed? What else are you dealing with?
Budgeting, things like that, just running the office and things of that nature, which I wasn't privy to growing up around it. I saw the, aftermath, the autopsies, things of that nature. But, the budgeting, paperwork, signing death certificates, things like that, going for medical records for an individual. If you don't have to post every single individual, but there are a lot of situations where you want to do your due diligence and make sure that, because an autopsy is going to pretty well keep you covered as far as cause of death. But there are times where you can look at someone's medical records and you can talk to the doctor if they don't want to sign the death certificate, and you can pretty well make a very educated guess on what the cause of death was, depending on what symptoms and ailments an individual had.
So you mentioned autopsy. You've got, relatively speaking, your budget is pretty small. And autopsies are pretty expensive.
About $2,000 for an autopsy.
And if you have a handful of autopsies that you weren't prepared for, that can blow your budget out.
Yeah, pretty quickly. The line item for autopsies in the budget, there's a statute in the state of Indiana that says that autopsies are the one thing that I can use up, and the council cannot deny more funds. But I try to be very frugal with the budget.
Well, so far, you're appears that you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Let's come back to coroner's office, but let's explain a little bit who you are. Your other life, you're a father, you're a husband. You've got you've been working at Harris Funeral Home since you were a toddler.
Yeah.
Harris, by the way, should no biological relationship to me, but I always called your grandpa cousin, and I called your grandma aunt.
Yeah.
For some reason, I called her Aunt Sonny, and Bob was cousin Bob.
Yeah.
But biologically, we're not, but they were always friends.
Yes.
So you grow up, you are managing the funeral home.
Yeah.
And what generation are you?
6th generation.
And the first one was Nick?
Yeah. Nick Harris, and
Nick was actually a carpenter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he started making caskets in Jefferson Township.
Yeah. We started in Otwell, right in that area.
And then that grew into...
He was, from my understanding, he had a furniture store, and he was asked more to build caskets when he was selling furniture, I believe. And so he ended up opening up a funeral home.
Wow.
Yeah.
My great-grandpa, we always loved wood, and my dad was quite a woodworker, but my mom's grandpa was a furniture builder, which grew into caskets.
Yeah.
And in fact, his toolbox is sitting on the ledge above this room here. But so you've got Nick. Then what's the next generation? That was about 1874?
1870 is when he first started.
Okay. Take us from there. Walk us through the history of the funeral home. You go from Nick, and you go, who's the next one?
His son, Oris.
Oris.
Yeah. And he actually came over to Petersburg, I believe, around 1900, somewhere around there.
So you've been in business in Pike County for 150 years?
Yes.
Almost. 155. Yeah. And from Oris, that time frame takes us into the 20s, maybe?
Yes. I cannot remember exactly when he passed. I want to say, because Nick passed, I believe, in 25 or 27. And then Oris would have gone into, I'm not 100% sure.
30s and 40s, maybe.
There, yeah. And then Owen, or Stiffy. Because if you mention Owen, no one's going to know who you're talking about, but everybody knew him as Stiffy Harris.
Stiffy and Lee.
Stiffy and Lee. Because Stiffy passed in 60, I want to say, or 62. And then Lee passed in 75 or 76, somewhere around there.
Now, Stiffy was your grandpa's dad,
yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And he had 3 boys.
Yeah.
And then you get into Bob. Your mom was one of 3 girls, and they've continued, and now it's you.
Yeah.
And you can't make plans for him, but are you raising your son in the business?
He's growing up around it like I did.
Right.
He comes in and, he doesn't have school and we're working and we're busy. He hangs out in the office and colors and plays on the tablet and draws pictures for us. And I mean, he's definitely around it.
So back to the coroners.
Mm-hmm.
You've got all this experience, and now you're the coroner. Where do you see any changes that are coming in the future? Technology is always growing, always changing. How does that affect your business?
Well, it doesn't really affect investigations a whole lot, I don't believe. I mean, if we have anything that's a suspected murder or anything that could possibly go to court, then ISP, Indiana State Police, their crime scene lab is called, and they come into the scene and do their investigation. And there's some times where it ends up being nothing at all, and there's times where obviously there's a crime has taken place or something of that nature. And their technology is what would be more advanced or advanced in the future.
Your deputies, who are they, and what is their background?
I've got Brian Maxwell.
Brian's been around for a long time.
Yeah, he's the jail commander up at the Pike County Sheriff's Office. And then Ryan Ficklin, who was the deputy jail commander at the Pike County Sheriff's Office.
Ryan's dad used to help you at the...
Yeah, worked part-time at the funeral home.
Or does he still?
No, he moved up to Indianapolis.
Okay.
Yeah. But, I got Brian and Ryan, and then I've got Scott Cyphers.
Scott's been in the business for quite a while.
The funeral business. Scott was actually my professor whenever I went to mortuary school back in 2006. He taught over at BU for a while.
Daniel Gilliand is a friend of mine, and his daughter Kathy also Brooks, her husband.
Yeah. Yeah, he mentored Scott whenever Scott started teaching. Scott's always talked very highly of Mr. Ross Brooks. Mm-hmm. And then Scott still works with me. Obviously, they're at Harris Funeral Home. And then I've got deputy, just got done with training, Brett Wood, and he works for Pike County EMS.
Great. So you've got a well-rounded group for support to help you. What are some obstacles that you're seeing in the coroner's office that?
Actually, I mean, from what I've seen and looked at past years and cases and things like that, it actually almost seems like our drug-related overdose deaths and things like that are actually lowering. Knock on wood, because hopefully it stays that way. I'm just thinking of different things that could possibly get worse, or because fentanyl is always has been an issue. Yes, yeah, you show up on a scene and you don't know what, you can't touch anything. You gloves on, protective gear, and protecting yourself and the people around you, the other first responders.
Thanks for watching WFPC Podcasting. Let's take a quick 60 seconds to hear from our episode sponsors.
WFPC welcomes a new sponsor, Hathaway Excavating and Rock Yard, located right here in Pike County on State Road 64, just west of the Arthur Junction near the new Pike County EMS building. Besides excavating and dirt work, Hathaway Excavating adds a rock yard to their bundle of services, along with all kinds of dirt work, septic cleaning, septic installs, and always local friendly service. Hathaway Excavating and Rock Yard, 812-582-2646. Recently, the real estate market has been unpredictable, but at Harris Real Estate, we still have clients looking for homes and properties. Let us help you sell your home or property and or find your next one. We're local. We know the business. We know the community. Harris Real Estate has listed and sold hundreds of properties right here in Pike County. Harris Real Estate, 812-380-1065. And when you wash your vehicle on a regular basis, there are many advantages. You're easier to see, you preserve the life of your vehicle, you help maintain its value, protect its paint, prevent corrosion, and it just looks better. It only takes 6 quarters or your credit card to get it started. Stop by Petersburg Car Wash today, 401 South 9th Street, Petersburg. One of the issues in EMS that we discussed a couple weeks ago is people are bigger today than they used to be.
Yes.
And I assume that carries over to you as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the funeral directing field and coroners field as well. And I've gotten a ton of help from the first responders from Pike County EMS, the fire departments, Pike County Sheriff's Office, and Petersburg City Police. They were phenomenal about staying behind on a scene. I mean, most of them stay the whole time. There are times, obviously, if EMS gets a run and they've got to take off, and that's part of it. That's more important than what we're doing there at the time. But everybody's been great.
It's nice that you're in a small community. You
Yes.
might have a really small department, but you've got brothers and sisters around you to...
Absolutely. Got a lot of great departments in this county to assist and help, and I've got close to a lot of people that I didn't know all that well before.
How busy are you? How many phone calls do you expect to get per year?
From looking at previous records and going off this year, I mean, we have 33 calls this year in Pike County.
That's through October.
Yeah, from January 1st to today in October. And that's just counting the individuals, like I said before, unattended deaths.
So by the end of the year, you're going to have 45.
It depends. I mean, like people talk about in the funeral business, it comes in waves. Nothing's ever guaranteed. You never know what can happen. And I mean, in the month of January alone, I had 8 calls, I believe. And then you can go a month without a single call. And then it seems like it ebbs and flows, I'll put it that way.
Well, and that's why you need your staff to help.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's when your money's going to fluctuate and might have to be spent here and held there.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing. There's the only issue in the coroner's office is there's a lot of things people may not want to hear. You know what I mean? As far as, because I don't want to get too far into autopsies and medical terminology and causes of death. You know what I mean? I don't want to get.
It's a sensitive subject.
Yes.
But
I try to stay very general when I get into that.
But I think we're pretty comfortable with your sensitivity toward it.
Yeah.
Because and it's like we started out. It's your family business.
Yes.
And it's just a way of life, and it's what you do, and it's one factor in life that will always be there.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate in this small community to have a family like yours that we know is going to care and take care of us during those sensitive times.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been on call. I mean, I've worked in the funeral field for years, and then everything felt right as far as running for the coroner's office. And my grandfather, from what I've been told, he got back from Korea and out of the service, and from what I've understood, his father, Stiffy, he told him, he said, well, come on, we're going to the courthouse. You're running for coroner. And that's how his journey in the coroner's office started. And
I think he told me that.
Yeah.
And that lasted from the mid-50s
up until
90.
He was still coroner whenever I was in middle school, was his last term.
And
that would have been
pushing 2000.
2000s, yeah.
And there were a couple years he'd switch back and forth with Lowry.
Yeah, he and Lowry switched back and forth pretty consistently.
And they were friends and they worked together and just kind of alternated occasionally.
Yeah.
And then Gretchen came in 2008.
I want to say 2000,
10,
maybe
12, somewhere right in there. Maybe 10.
Yeah. Well, 2012, she served her 8 years, and then her 8 years were done in 2020.
Okay. That's why they were alternating.
Yeah.
Because you only had
we could only serve 8 years.
Two
2
consecutive terms.
Mm-hmm. And you can give it up for a term. You can still be a part of the office. You can still be a deputy or an advisor of some sort. And then a lot of times people will, like another deputy will take the coroner's position or if they're elected, and then they'll switch back and forth.
So you've been in there for a year?
Yeah.
Not even 9 months, 10 months?
10 months.
And we're starting anew.
Yeah.
We had Chris Young in here a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you saw that program.
No.
But he was talking about in 1977 and prior to 1977 when EMS really got established. EMS consisted of calling Harris's or Curtis's.
Yeah.
And they'd run you to the hospital. And
Well, they had an ambulance, but it wasn't like ambulances today. It was more of a hearse, kind of like the Ghostbusters car. Is what it kind of looked like.
Did it have a bubble on top?
Yeah. Yep. And I remember my grandfather telling stories about how, you come up to an intersection, whoever's looking out the window would just say how many cars or the make and color of a car that they could, because you were just gunning to the hospital. I'm not sure how much medical training they had to keep somebody alive or work them until they got to the hospital, but my grandpa had a lot of stories about it.
Yeah.
Because you had not only death calls for the funeral home, but you had ambulance runs all night long. So it would have been very hectic.
Oh my.
Yeah.
And yeah, you had limited staff to do that.
Yes.
Nick, take us back and give us more of the history. When Pike County started in 1816, did we have a coroner's office?
Yes.
Really?
There would have been something of that nature back then. As far as 1816, I'm not 100% sure as far as who the coroner would have been or there being a coroner's office, but I know for sure the coroner's office started back in medieval England. And I think it was about 1194, somewhere around there. The coroner's office, the coroner was actually created to make sure people didn't cheat death tax back then for the king.
Really?
Yeah. And if somebody lost a child, they would be compensated. And the coroner was created to make sure verify death and make sure it was actually taking place when people would try to get their payment for losing a family member or a child. And to make it all came down to finances at the time, but it was to make sure that people weren't kind of like insurance fraud or something of that nature. Yeah.
That is interesting. And that you take that through the Middle Ages and through the bubonic plague and
oh yeah. Yeah, it's obviously evolved a lot in different ways and then also funny enough, it was also created, part of the creation was to actually have someone oversee the sheriff, which
Today you are the only person that can arrest the sheriff.
Yes. And I don't plan on it. I like JK a lot. But
JK's staying on your good side, right?
Yeah, he is.
But I don't think the state can do it. I don't think another officer can.
The coroner, it's not even necessarily the individual who performs the actual arrest. It is the one who issues the warrant for the arrest, and that's what the coroner would do more than anything. But it'd be the state police coming in to actually perform the arrest.
All right.
Which has happened once in my lifetime here in Pike County.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for clarifying that. Walk us through more history of the coroner and how it's developed to what it is today.
Well, back then, years ago, it was obviously not as advanced as what it is today. The coroner, you would still go to a household, examine the body or examine proof. You don't look for proof of death. And then, take your report back. And you're still doing reports to this day. Every coroner's case, whenever a death certificate's signed by the coroner, legally there's a report done. And that report is put in the records along with the autopsy report if there's a autopsy done. But there's been, obviously for years, autopsies have been performed, but the autopsies got a lot more in depth than what they used to be. There was actually they would call it a coroner's inquest. You would have an inquest done, and you would have people from the community would come and sit in on the inquest, which was pretty much you would gather your evidence and you would make your case for what you believed the cause of death was.
And this is after the body is buried?
I'm not 100% because they don't do really the inquest like they used to. Right. There were probably times where the body would be exposed. There. Yes.
So one of and I think when you and I first knew each other, when you were a small kid, I was a reporter at WFPC, and the community is this Pike County community is just what drew me in.
Yes.
And I've always loved this community. Mm-hmm. We miss that local Mayberry-ish feel, and that's kind of what inspired WFPC Podcasting. Mm-hmm. This program, we've had several department heads. We've had Denny Whitecamp in here recently. We've had Chris Young in here. We've had the sheriff in here, and we've got more to go. But in part, it's to inform and to involve the community with our local officials, and gives you an opportunity not only for transparency, but just to say, here's what's going on. We want you involved with us. How can the coroner's office be involved in this community?
Well, one thing would be, in my opinion, would be a form of outreach, educate individuals, especially parents. For me, it would be, one of my biggest things would be not sleeping with your infant child in the bed, something of that nature. Just trying to educate people, because you see bad things happen, and that's just part of life, sadly. But if you can change one call, one thing, where we don't have to get that call, and give somebody a heads up that, from now on, don't do this, or protect yourself in this way. And like I said, if an individual family has a pool, making sure there's a lock on the gate, because there's a lot of times where children, especially toddlers, can wander in the pool. And as I said, sleeping with your infant child, just trying to educate families and people so that, bad things don't always have to happen.
Are there other preventative things? What are other things that we need to always be conscientious of that we're doing correctly to prevent bad things from happening.
No, I mean, as cliche as it may sound, wear your seatbelt. I mean, it is. There's a lot of, it doesn't take much as far as speed to mortally injure somebody if there's a wreck. And even, I mean, don't mess with fentanyl and drugs. I mean, as we talked a little bit earlier, fentanyl is a very scary thing. And in these individuals, I don't think they realize how deadly what they're messing with is.
And other drugs you mentioned earlier in the program, other drugs we're subsiding right now. Is that what you're? I mean,
as far as overdoses, most overdoses from what I have seen don't come from methamphetamine, cocaine, things of that nature. It is more pharmaceuticals such as hydrocodone, things of that nature, painkillers, and fentanyl. I mean, there have been heroin overdoses in the past, but that it was also more fentanyl related as well, where these drugs are cut with the fentanyl and are deadly, even to touch these drugs. If you, for some reason, get some residue, it is absorbed through the skin. And we have gloves that are rated to protect ourselves from that.
It just gets in your skin.
It can absorb through, yes.
And that can eventually kill you.
It can, if there's no Narcan available. And yeah.
That's dangerous stuff.
It is very dangerous.
And that's what's been coming from China,
Venezuela, and
through the border.
Yeah.
And that's what we keep hearing about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not wanting people here. It's not wanting bad people here.
Yeah. Yeah, people are going to bring poison in to kill our citizens. Yes.
Nick, I'm sure you never know what the next phone call is going to be.
That's true.
And it's you've got an interesting job, an interesting career. Mm-hmm. We appreciate you coming in and just filling us in on a day in the life of the coroner. Anything else you need to leave us with?
No, not really. I appreciate you having me, Randy, and thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thanks for joining us for this program of WFPC Podcasting. The program is brought to you by Harris Real Estate, Hathaway Excavating and Rock Yard, and Petersburg Car Wash. Please like the podcast and share it with your friends so more people can hear about WFPC Podcasting, which may be found wherever you find your podcasts, or just type it in your browser. New programs are released on Fridays as we explore the people, information, and news right here in Pike County. See you next week.
Thanks for watching WFPC Podcasting, your local source for the heart and history of Pike County, Indiana. From back roads to town centers, we bring you the voices, stories, and news that shape our community. Join us on this journey through the past, present, and future of Pike County, Indiana. Tune in next week for the next episode of WFPC Podcasting.